Most fitness habits are a complete waste of time after 50. In this video, I'm gonna expose 7 fitness habits that are keeping men over 50 tired, soft, and out of shape, and what to do instead to lose the gut, build muscle, and finally love what you see in the mirror. I'm Rio, founder of Polarity Fitness. I help men over 50 lose fat, build muscle, and feel proud of their bodies again, training just twice per week. I use this system to take my body from this to this. Then I helped my dad transform at 53 using the same approach. And since then, it's helped hundreds of men do the same without spending their lives in the gym. The first habit is lifting more than 2 to 3 times a week. So most men over 50 are stuck in the more is better trap, but more workouts are never the answer. 2 to 3 brief workouts per week is the sweet spot for men over 50. It provides the perfect balance between stimulus and recovery. I have honestly never seen a man over 50 training 5 to 6 days a week who wouldn't see better progress by doing less. And the reason being is recovery. Without plenty of rest time between sessions, you will not gain muscle because muscle is built outside of the gym during rest and recovery. Too many men over 50 are training too much and recovering too little, and that's what keeps them stuck. Your central nervous system, which is literally the mechanism responsible for recruiting your muscles to actually work and produce force, takes about 48 to 72 hours to recover from a hard training session. And what I've seen working with plenty of men in their 50s and 60s is that they tend to need closer to 72 hours if they're actually training with sufficient effort. So the litmus test for this is if you're currently training more than 3 times a week and you're not seeing consistent strength gains, so what that means is that your lifts aren't going up in strength, you're not able to add weight to the bar week to week or add some reps, you're likely overtraining. So what would I recommend doing instead? Well, I would recommend following a full body twice a week training split. This is what I have my clients in their 50s and 60s do. They train twice a week on full body routines. Typically, it's 6 total exercises per session and 2 sets per exercise. I have plenty of videos on my channel that go more into depth on how to actually set that up, so that I'll link that above here. And if you don't want to train just twice a week, you can train 3 times a week on an upper split, where basically on Monday you do upper body, Wednesday you do lower body, and then Friday you do another upper body workout. The second fitness habit that's a complete waste of time after 50 is doing more than 2 sets per exercise. So most men over 50 think that more sets mean more growth, but it's not the number of sets that builds muscle, it's the quality of your effort in those sets. In other words, it's about whether you're actually taking your sets close to failure or not, which is the point at which you can no longer move the weight despite exerting maximal effort. My clients over 50 see their best gains doing just 2 sets per exercise. And the reason being is because fewer sets equals more effort and focus per set. And more effort per set means more muscle growth because training hard is fundamentally what drives muscle growth to begin with. Doing too many sets per exercise leads to a dilution of effort. It's only the final 5 reps of any given set that actually stimulate muscle growth, the final 5 before you fail. And most men do too many sets per exercise and just end up going through the motions, leaving multiple reps in the tank on every single set, never training hard enough to actually stimulate muscle growth. And so there's a guy named Arthur Jones who is the pioneer of high intensity training. He's the pioneer of really effective training in my eyes. He was also the mentor of Mike Mentzer, and he had this saying that completely changed the trajectory of my training career, I guess you could say. And he said, you can either train long or you can train hard, but you can't do both. And so fundamentally what he was speaking to is the trade-off that exists in weight training between volume and intensity. Volume being the number of exercises and sets you do in a workout, intensity being how hard you push those exercises and sets, or in other words, how close you push to failure. And so if you do a lot of volume, you just can't train as hard because, as I said, your effort and focus become diluted. But if you flip the script and you do fewer exercises and sets, you can ultimately put a lot more effort and focus and intensity into the training that you do. And that's the trade-off that you want to take. You want to do fewer exercises and sets, but actually push that training really hard. Not only does that stimulate more muscle growth because you're actually training hard instead of just going through the motions, but it also accumulates less fatigue because you're just doing less volume, and that makes it easier for you to recover from. Before we continue, if you're a man over 50 who's ready to finally lose the gut, build muscle, and get into the best shape of your life, I want to help you. I run a 6-month one-on-one coaching program built around this exact 2-day training system. You get a personalized 2-day plan, a custom nutrition plan, private one-on-one calls with me every month, exercise form reviews over Zoom, and 24/7 access to my phone number for questions and support. And here's my guarantee. If you actually follow the program and don't lose 20 pounds and rebuild muscle in 12 weeks, you don't pay. If you're ready, click the link below and book a free call with me. We'll map out your plan and see if it's a fit. All right, back to the video. The third fitness habit that's a complete waste of time after 50 is doing intensive cardio for fat loss. So if you're jogging for like an hour a day hoping to burn fat, you're really just burning your fucking time. You're really just burning your time, man. Like spending hours jogging every single day or whatever else cardio you do tends to just ramp up your appetite and impede your recovery. What I would strongly recommend doing instead, if your goal is to lose fat, be healthy, have a good body composition, look really good, just walk instead, man. Walking burns calories and induces a further calorie deficit, which speeds up your fat loss, but without increasing your appetite like a lot of intensive cardio forms do. And it's also low intensity by nature, so it doesn't impact your recovery or impact your joints. And so the key thing to understand here is that when you're over 50, you have finite resources, you have finite adaptational reserves to dump into improving your body, right? And you need to save these limited resources for your strength training. Otherwise, you'll just end up looking skinny fat like so many men over 50 do, which is what most cardio-focused men look like. If you look at people who are jogging on the side of the street, like rarely do they have like good-looking bodies. Like usually they're just skinny fat. They don't have muscle and they have this like layer of fat around their stomach, their chest. Like they don't look great, right? And that's because they're taking all of their resources and they're putting it into jogging instead of what actually matters most for building a great body composition, which is your weight training, right? So the TLDR here is like, try to walk as much as you can every single day. Usually for my clients, I recommend like walking 8,000 steps a day if they're really trying to ramp up fat loss. If you want to go even quicker than that, you want to like lose fat rapidly, go up to like 10 to 12 or 10 to 15,000 steps per day. I know that's probably unrealistic for a lot of you guys. You're probably really busy. What I end up telling my clients is just like on your rest days, try to get as many steps as you can ultimately. And if you combine that walking each day or just on your rest days with lifting twice a week and really getting your strength up in the gym, your body will look better than 99% of guys your age. Now, the fourth habit is overcomplicating nutrition. This is something I see so often with the men that I work with. If you're tracking every macro, you're cutting carbs, and you're trying to eat perfectly clean, just stop, man. Just stop. You're making it so much more difficult than it needs to be. If we look at Pareto's principle, it states that 80% of your results in any domain come from 20% of your actions. In other words, most of the shit you're focusing on doesn't actually matter, doesn't actually contribute to the outcome you're trying to achieve. So what's the 20% that deliver the majority of results? In nutrition, it's really just hitting the right calorie and protein intake for your goals, and then trying to eat mostly whole foods. Now, a lot of people don't agree with this, but I've seen the best results for myself and for my clients by just telling them to hit a certain calorie intake, get enough protein to support muscle growth, and then eat what you want within that framework. That sounds too good to be true, but that's actually what works long term. That's what's actually sustainable. Really restrictive diets never work, man. All these fucking rules, all this stuff that makes your diet like so complicated and so difficult to stick with, it's not helping you, man. Like ultimately you want to make your nutrition as simple as possible. And the best way to do that is just to focus on what actually moves the needle, what actually matters. It's just hitting the right calorie intake, which if you're trying to lose fat just means eating in a deficit. If you're trying to gain muscle, eat in a small surplus, and then get enough protein to support muscle growth, which is literally just 0.8 grams per pound of lean body mass, lean body weight, whatever. That's all you need. You don't need to track macros. You don't need to cut carbs. You don't need to eat ultra clean. You don't even need to cut out beer if you don't want to. Like my dad lost 28 pounds in 90 days at 53 years old, eating a big ass bowl of ice cream every single night and still eating the foods that he loves. All he did was just made sure to fit it into the right calorie and protein intake. He ate ice cream every night. He ate the same meals that he was eating before he was trying to lose fat while he was losing fat. All he did was just took those same meals, those same foods, and just made the numbers make sense. You don't need to overcomplicate this. That's all you gotta do, man. That's all you gotta do. And the cool thing about this is that it's just so much more sustainable. Because if you have to flip your entire world upside down, adopt all these new rules with your diet, cut out your favorite food, stop drinking beer, all this different shit, you're not gonna stick to it, man. And if you can't do it for life, don't do it for a day. Fitness and health is an infinite game. It does not end. And so you cannot follow a plan. Like, this is the whole problem with the word diet. Like, the word diet implies that it's short term and that it's going to come to an end, but that's not how it works. If you want to stay in shape for the rest of your life, you have to continue doing this for the rest of your life. And that's why it's so important that whatever method or approach you use to get in good shape is something you can see yourself doing for the rest of your life. And so if what you're doing right now, you can't see yourself doing it long term, just stop. Just stop, because maybe you'll get in shape, but you're not going to sustain it because you're just going to jump right back to what you're doing before. Not going to work. The simplest, most effective thing to do is just hit the right calorie intake, get enough protein, and then eat what you want within those numbers. This is what I do with all my clients. It's extremely simple, and that's why it works. Now, your complexity bias is probably preventing you from accepting this as truth, but it really is this simple. Now, the fifth habit, and I know so many of you guys are guilty of this one, is watching too much fitness content. One of the first things I do with my clients when I bring them on board is I put them on a strict content diet. You know what I mean? Like, the issue with consuming tons of fitness content is that it just confuses you up the arsehole. It makes you so confused and it just paralyzes you. Like, one person says this, the other person says that. Before you know it, you're either completely paralyzed into not taking any action, or you're just jumping from thing to thing, never sticking with anything long enough to actually see real results, right? The best thing you can do, and I do this in all the other areas of my life as well, is I pick one person and I just listen to them. Like, I just listen to them. That's what I did to get in good shape. That's what I do in business. That's what I do in everything. I pick one person and I just listen to them. I put the blinders on and I just execute what they say. You know what I mean? Like, you don't need more information most of the time. There's so much information out there, like too much information. All you need is more execution. So just pick one philosophy, one approach, put the blinders on, and just stick with it. And this is honestly like one of the main benefits that a lot of my clients, report to me upon working with me, is like just the fact that like they put skin in the game and they commit to one person and one approach and they just follow it. They stick with it, right? Because they invest money into it, they have some skin in the game, and then they just put the blinders on. And they just follow what I tell them. And that's ultimately how you get great results. You don't need more information. Now, the sixth habit, and I see this so often with men over 50, is not having or sticking to a clear plan. Most men over 50 lack a clear plan or structure with their fitness regimen. Everything is random. Each workout is different. They're going by feel, and nothing is tracked. So they switch routines every few weeks, always chasing something new. But building a great body after 50 demands consistency, not novelty. Most men are exercising, not training, and that's why they're stuck. What's the difference between exercising and training? Well, exercise is basically physical activity done for the immediate feel-good effect, right? You do a workout, you hit a jog or whatever, and you feel good about yourself because you did something, right? That's exercising. Training is physical activity done with a long-term goal in mind, where each session is one constituent piece of a plan to get you stronger. The only thing that should be changing from week to week is the load on the bar or the reps with the same load you used last time. Everything else stays the same. The exercises in the order you did them in, the sets and the rest period in between the sets, that all stays consistent. You do not add in new stuff. This is the only way you can actually evaluate your progress over time. You can't know if you're progressing if you're always changing shit. You need to pick one system and stick with it, and you need to stick with it long after the point at which it gets boring. Because the truth is, building muscle, improving your body is pretty fucking boring. You're just repeating the same stuff over and over again. Building muscle is just about stringing together progressive workouts, where each week, you're striving to add some weight to the same exercise. You're striving to add some reps. Like, that's all it is. You're just chipping away at the same exercises week after week and just striving to master them and get as strong as you possibly can at them. That's what it takes. You cannot be changing things constantly. You need to pick a plan and you need to stick with it for a long time. The seventh habit is focusing on the wrong exercises. So Warren Buffett once said, "It's not about how hard you row. It's about what boat you're in." And the same is true in the gym. You can be pushing yourself really hard, but if you're doing the wrong exercises, it doesn't matter how hard you're pushing. Most men over 50, from what I've seen, waste so much time on just isolation exercises. Things like bicep curls, chest flies, leg extensions. Things that look productive and are quite honestly pretty easy, but don't actually change your body meaningfully. Now, don't get me wrong, isolation work has its place, but it's just the icing on top of the cake. The cake itself is built from big compound lifts, things like squats, deadlifts, presses, rows, chin-ups, dips. These are the heavy hitters. They train multiple muscle groups at once, they let you add real weight over time, and they force your body to adapt. Everything else is just kind of garnish. So focus 80% of your effort on the main lifts and you'll finally start seeing progress that actually shows in the mirror. If you're a man over 50 who's serious about losing your gut, building muscle, and looking 20 years younger, I'll take everything I just showed you and create a plan tailored to your body, your schedule, and your goals. That's what my clients get, and that's why they completely transform. So here's what I'm offering you: a 6-month one-on-one coaching program where you get a personalized 2-day training plan built specifically for you, a custom nutrition plan that doesn't require tracking macros or giving up the foods you love, 2 private coaching calls with me every single month, exercise form reviews over Zoom, 24/7 access to my phone number for questions and support, and a private community of high-performing men over 40. And here's my guarantee: follow the program and lose 20 pounds and rebuild muscle in 12 weeks, or you do not pay. So if you're interested, click the link below and book a free call with me. I've got limited spots because I work with every single client one-on-one. So if you're watching this and you're interested, lock in your spot now.